Hi, this is Chris Rego, and I'm going to do a different type of video where basically I've been asked several times over the past couple weeks how to pull information from USASpending.gov. So you could use this method either in Excel or Power BI. I'm going to be doing it in Power BI just to kind of show that you can do this with Power Query. So USA Spending, if you didn't know, that's where a lot of the federal spending information gets published. It's a really nice website. It also has a API. If you're unfamiliar with APIs, it's an application programming interface, and it's a way to securely pass data back and forth between websites, databases, and consumers of data. So if you go to api.usaspending.gov, you get this page. You can go to the endpoints, and these are all like this is like your shopping cart. This is what you can get. You have to figure out what the top tier agency code is if you're not sure. I think there is a references. Let's see. Top tier agencies. So if you go to this one, just click it. Takes a minute. But then you'll get it. This is actually the list of top tier agencies. You can honestly just take this link and I can go to Power BI from web. I don't even need to do advanced. I can just do that. And this will give me a legit list of all my agencies. I have to change the types. I think top tier agency, you probably want this in text. And then I think you might want this in text. But this will give you basically, this is like a cheat sheet of all the codes for all the agencies. I think if you come back here, you can see, go see the documentation for this endpoint. And this will take you to the GitHub, and then you can see other parameters you can put on it. Super helpful. So that's really quick. That's an example of a GET request. That's where you're not really passing any parameters in. You're just literally pasting URL in, and it's returning information. So that's one way. So when we go back to USA Spending, that's the difference. So like all these GET requests, you might have to pass, like let's go up to the top. You might have to pass, like for top tier agency code, you might have to pass in the code for the agency that you want. So let's go here. If I click this link, it takes a minute because it's actually calling the API when I click that link for an example agency. So let's do an agency 012, which is USDA. If I come back here to Power BI, I'll take the American, actually that's a pretty small one. Let me do a different one. Department of Education 091. If I come back here, just change to 012 to 091. So that changed the response to Department of Education. So you literally can test in the web page right there just by changing the URL. Then once you get what you need, you can do your GET request by just doing a web request and just pasting the URL as you need it. You could also set dynamic URLs in desktop and Excel, I think you can't do it in a data flow because it's blocked, but if you're doing your own like local analysis, it should be fine. So those are simple GET requests. Those are like pretty straightforward. Um, if you need to pass anything, it'll be between the carrots. No, those aren't carrots. Those, I don't even know what those are. Those arrows or less than, greater than, equal to, less than and greater than signs. So sometimes you might have to do multiple ones, but and you might have to chain your request so that you get an identifier from one API, pass it to a different endpoint. It can get a little bit complex, but for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. Now I'm going to do a post request. Post request is you're not only using the URL, you're also passing information that you want to provide a filters to the API, or you're saying, hey, I want this type of data. So I'm going to do a straightforward one. Usually what I do right off the bat is I go into Postman to just make sure it works. So I think the one I'm going to do is spending by geography. So let's see. Search spending by geography. I think this is the one. So if I click this, I go to the documentation. It's a post request and it has all these attributes. You want to make sure that you look at what's required, what's optional, and then what you need to pass. Okay, so this one gives you an example. You can take the hello world, copy it, probably put some keywords in there, and then you'll be able to figure out a response for whatever you're looking for. So in this one, you need to put filters on it. Whether you want subawards, it's up to you. Scope of the data, whether you want place of performance or recipient location, and the layer, whether you want state level data, county, or district. And then you could do geo layer filters, which is optional. So you're passing it as JSON. That's the body of the request, which I'll get in a minute. And then it will return back a response. So I usually this is where I dip into Postman. I already have this kind of built out. So for that example, took a little bit to figure out, but the filters are required. So if I go back to here, you can filter objects. I went to agencies. And I wanted to get a specific agencies. So for example, I did the Department of Veterans Affairs. And I said I wanted the type, I wanted the awarding agency. I wanted not just a group at the department level, I wanted sub-tiers. And the name of the agency was Department of Veterans Affairs. So if I go back to here, if I go to agency objects, it's all right there. So the type of agency I wanted the, what did I pick? Awarding agency. Tier, I wanted sub-tier, not just grouped at the department level. The name, I put the strict name, Department of Veterans Affairs, and then I didn't do top tier name. So, and then two other things that were required. I think GeoLayer was not required, but I said state. And the scope was required, was place of performance. So I have my required parameters passing in the JSON. Have this set to post request with the URL from the API. Have this set to JSON and raw. Then when I hit send, I get a response. So I get it says status 200, which means it's okay. and it's all my response. So, how does this get into Power Query? All right, this is where it gets not too tricky. So, I'll put this in the this whole thing in the Visitor Vets website, but this is a sample post request. I think I got this from Inka Feldman and just modified it a little bit. And basically, you can do post requests just by using the web and then the web connector and then hitting advanced. But I think when passing a body like this, it can get a little bit complex, and I think it only really wants to take one line. But anyway, what I did was I literally just took this JSON and in Power Query, I'm just going to do this over here. All you have to do is put curly brackets around, quotes around the curly brackets, one set of quotes. And then everything in the middle gets two. So you're just adding so that it's escaping the fact that there's a quote. So that way it ends up being a string. Now I'm getting errors all abounds because of making syntax errors, but that's basically what it did. Just took that whole thing, put a quote, wrapped it in double quotes, and then where there was double quotes in the middle, made them two sets all the way through. That escaped the quotes and just made it one long string. And now it recognizes here that's just one single quote in the code itself. So that was pretty much it. This is the template. I usually just change the body if I need something. For post request as needed, hit done. And then blow this up. So I broke it up into steps. So this is my URL. That's my body. As you can see, because as it's actually passed over as one set of double quotes inside. That was just to escape it. Our response came back. And then this is it in a JSON document response. So then if I right click and say into table, I get this. If I drill down, these are my results. I drill down again to table, none. And then, so a lot of times you have to expand like 12 times. Now this is actually the stuff I was looking for. So let me just go ahead and change some types. Actually, let me just do decimal number, whole number, fixed decimal, currency, and then these two are text. Delete these two. Now I got a response all set up. Close and apply. And let me just load on my other screen. I think this one I did it by congressional districts. So let me just go ahead and do just a quick measure. I'm going to do, actually I don't need to do a measure. I'm just going to do a quick table real quick. Just to show you that I do have data. So let me go to sheet code. And display name. And aggregate amount. I'll make it like this. Actually, to the table real quick. So as you can see, yes, you get all the data from USA Spending from the API. You can do it pretty straightforward, pretty easily. Obviously, I'm using an implicit measure here. I actually don't need to aggregate, but yeah, you can do a lot of cool things with API development. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.